We are live here. I want to quickly introduce myself and let Betty introduce herself as well. I'm Katherine Hood. If we haven't met, I call myself a happiness coach. And what I love to do is work with individuals and small groups in helping them define what happiness is and then walk alongside them as their thinking partner to cultivate and create happiness in their life, the sustainable. I want to introduce you guys to Betty, let her tell a little bit about herself, and then we're going to dive into Overwhelm.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think it's funny because I say I love to talk about stress and overwhelm, but I really do. So I'm Betty McLean. I am an RN. I've been a nurse for 20 years, and through my own journey with burnout, I became a coach. I'm a certified life coach and certified burnout coach, and I help nurses and healthcare professionals heal from that dread and overwhelm and stress and learn to love their job again. So that is what I do. I work primarily one on one. I've done some groups and I love helping healthcare. I think healthcare is one of those professions where, yes, it comes with an amazing amount of challenges and stress just naturally built in, but it has the potential to be so amazing and so rewarding. And I love helping nurses get to a point where they can love their job again. So,
Mm.
yeah, overwhelm is one of those sensations, emotions in our body that, regardless of your profession, comes up a lot for a lot of people. And what I think is really, really powerful is when people can realize that emotions like overwhelm are all caused from our thinking,
Mhm.
which is kind of weird if you're not familiar with how the brain works and how humans work. It kind of sounds silly, but all of our emotions are caused from our thoughts, from electrical impulses on our brain. And I think the more we can realize that and the more we can acknowledge that, the easier hard emotions are to manage. So
Mm.
that's part of my coaching philosophy and technique is separating out um, thoughts from fact and from feeling and from all of the things going on around us. So,
Yeah, that's where
yeah.
I think we're drawn to each other is that we have a lot of the same foundational work that we do with our clients because, we both have a great understanding of how the brain does work, how
Mhm.
simplistic it is. And one of the things that I want to point out is yeah, we are thinking, feeling beings. And one of the things that I challenge my clients with is gather proof, gather evidence of what I'm saying is true and real. Don't take my word for it. Go find
Mhm.
proof and data that is true and real. And it's every second of every day you can find the proof for it. Every
Mhm.
second, because we
Mhm.
we think we feel we do. We think we feel we do
Mhm.
all day long. Or it could
Mhm.
be think, feel, not do. So if there's something that you're wanting
Yeah.
to do more
Yeah.
of, it's really figuring out what was the thought that preceded that, right? So
Mhm.
back to the
Mhm.
topic of overwhelm, for me, working with a lot of clients when they have come to me, and I have several that are recovering overwhelm addicts, right? If you want to call
Mhm.
it that,
Mhm.
where they just keep saying yes.
Yeah.
And nurses are very, very guilty of this. I know this for sure, of saying yes to too many things,
Yeah.
really adding
Mhm.
too much to their plate and doing so
Yeah.
much and
Yeah.
going and just not knowing when to put the oxygen mask on themselves and take a deep breath and saying no is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Learning, I think the we get into this place, I think, with just the way our society is structured is a lot of us were taught it's not okay to say no. Like it's not okay to disappoint people. It's not okay to have boundaries. And I don't like I was never taught that overtly, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it's just kind of this vague underpinning is like you say yes, you help, you show up, you don't say no, right? Especially to your boss, to your manager, to your parents, or the people that, you say that you care about, right? And the problem with that is we only have a limited amount of energy. Like, we are
Mm.
not perpetual motion machines. We're not the Energizer Bunny. We're a human organism with a limited amount of energy. Now, we can restore that energy, we can cultivate more energy, right? But like, recharging our energy, cultivating more energy, that takes self-care, right?
One of the things
And
that
when we
always
yeah.
One of the things that I love that you mentioned energy, because there are major, it's logic, right? We need quality
Mhm,
sleep, we need quality food, we need quality hydration in order to recharge our batteries. And one of the things I've never ever really understood or embraced is, why is it do they have nurses and doctors in the medical field work, and even other first responders, because I lump you all into being first responders.
mhm,
Why
mhm.
is it that they have them working 12-hour shifts? And it just seems to me to be really part of that toxic culture of, well, let's
Mhm,
see how ragged we can run them. And to me, I would think that doctors and nurses, we would go, all right, you're only going to do 4-hour shifts. Like, I mean, it just seems
mhm,
like, to me, you wouldn't
mhm.
put someone that's gonna operate on your brain, I wouldn't want them to be on their 11th hour. Like, to me, that just does not make sense. And
Yeah.
so that, I don't know.
Well, and the hard thing about that is, like, doctors, especially when they're, like, in residency or certain departments, like, they'll work 24 hours on. That's very common. Now, they do have the opportunity to take naps, but their ability to actually go take a nap is limited, right? Because if they're needed, they're on call. And it's the same thing, like, when nurses, I love my 12-hour shifts because it means I only work 3 days a week.
Doesn't make it
But
right.
what happens is we are supposed to have mandated breaks. And during that break, if you're really good with your self-care, what you do is you go outside, you look at the trees, you drink some water. I am really good at cat napping, so I can take a really restorative nap in about 5 minutes.
Wow.
So, ideally, what you do is you take breaks every 4 hours,
Hmm.
right? And you drink your water and you have a really protein rich meal, right? And you take good care of yourself and you restore that energy. And you only work your 3 days a week. What happens is, for nurses, is manager calls them on their day off and says, "Oh my gosh, everybody called in sick. We need you. Your family needs you. Your work family needs you. Please come in. You're the only thing that can save us." Right? I call
Guilt.
this empathy. Yes, yes. It's empathy manipulation,
Mhm.
because I care about my coworkers.
Yeah.
I care about my patients. But you saying your work family needs you,
Mhm.
that's trying to manipulate my
Mhm.
care and my empathy and my compassion. But if nurses and doctors and first responders are careful and they're taking excellent care of themselves, excellent sleep, excellent hydration, right? They can replenish that energy. But when you aren't doing that, and you're picking up extra shifts because you're needed, right? And you're not taking those distraction-free breaks and that kind of thing, your brain never has a chance to restore your energy. You never have a chance to restore your physical energy. And it doesn't matter if you haven't said yes to extra things, you will become overwhelmed even with your most basic tasks, because we're not machines, right? We have to maintain our energy level. So the it's I think, with especially with this feeling of overwhelm, it's this it's this interplay of, like, how do I manage my body and my physical energy well, and also make sure I have boundaries so that when I'm taking good care of myself, it's actually working, right? And I'm not letting other people take it and take it and take it and take it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just becoming a healthy adult, is learning that balance, because everybody's different, right? I can take a 5-minute power nap. I can take a 10-minute break and restore my energy. I know how I work. I know
So
what it takes for me.
the
You
thing
have
that
to
comes
figure
up
that
for
out.
me is the circadian rhythm really needs
Mm.
consistency, and to me, the 12-hour shift just does not work, right? And I
Mhm.
have studied my own
Yeah.
sleep
Yeah.
tremendously over the past few years, especially since I got an Apple Watch. Like, it's just like my
Oh,
goal is
yeah.
2 plus hours of REM sleep a night.
Mhm.
And it's so fun to experiment with it in a way that says, man, I was just looking this morning, I got 2 hours and 39 minutes 2 nights ago, and
Mm.
I had this lightning
Yeah.
bolt energy all day long. The
Yes.
other thing that has been mentioned quite a bit is boundaries, and it's
Mhm.
interesting because, like, I get that word. It seems like the word of the year. There's always these
Yeah.
words of the year, and
Mhm.
that word is misused too often. And when I think of boundaries, I think of
Mm.
how you've used has been great and perfect and amazing,
Mhm.
and what I see it being used for is for you. It's your own rules. Rules, I know, for some people is a a strong word, but for me, I
Yeah.
love rules. Like, rules give me
Yeah.
bumpers to make sure that I'm,
Yeah.
honoring my mental, emotional, and physical energy. And
Mhm.
so for me, I would, a boundary would be my phone is off, man, when I'm not working, or
Yes.
I,
Yeah.
unplug. Or, there's another rule we have here is no technology at the dinner table, different
Yep.
things that is
Yeah.
a outward agreement. Actually, that's an agreement,
Yeah.
not a boundary.
Yeah.
So
Well,
agreement would be
yeah.
involving other people.
Yes.
Boundaries are just
Yeah.
for me, right? These are the bumpers that I have to protect my energy. But
Yeah.
I hear
Yeah.
that being used improperly, where they're demanding that other people understand their boundaries, and that's not boundaries. That's manipulation. That's demands.
Yeah.
That's being a
Yeah.
dictator. Not healthy.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
kind of going back to overwhelm is, yeah, it's just when I'm working with healthcare professionals, I just like one in particular that I've been working with quite closely. They they have like this 2.5 hour commute on top of this crazy work schedule. And it's just, logically it's like, well, is there a way that you can move closer? Right? Is there, all these logics that has been brought up by my
Yeah.
client. I don't bring it up. I don't make these suggestions. They
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
We've had some brainstorming sessions on how to navigate this, and
Mhm.
there is a solution that's in the works that hopefully
Yeah.
will. It's going to take a year to resolve it, but to me, it's just like, how are you balancing everything out, right? Because you
Yeah.
can't work 80, 90, 100 hours and believe that that's sustainable for your entire life, and be able to go at the end of your life and go, wow, I'm so glad that I worked 80, 100 hours a week for,
Right?
30, 40, 50 years, which really is not human. I mean, Superman can
No.
maybe do it. And I do
Yeah.
say that our first responders are heroes, so thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just not sustainable. And really, at the end of your life, what's most important? That is a question I ask all my clients. The second session that I have with them
Mhm.
is because just trying to get to know them and what their values
Yeah.
are and what's really important for them. And whatever they
Mhm.
tell me is something that I read pre every coaching session from that
Mhm.
point forward, because I want to like
Yeah.
really have that, because it really identifies something that's really important to them, especially if it's real profound and they really answer it from their heart and
Yeah.
their soul. It really
Mhm.
gives me a guiding post, the lighthouse
Yeah.
that we're pointing towards. Because I
Mhm.
took a class for 6 months, and that's really what it was, is learning and developing and creating what your eulogy is going to say, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
it really was. I had to write my own
Yeah.
eulogy, and
Mhm.
man, when you really take 6 months and study that in a
Mhm.
deep way, you really
Yeah.
can live each day understanding, what is really most important to you, and living each day with the end in mind can create this. It really answers a lot of questions that pop up every day, right?
Yeah.
So I have clients that are out there asking me questions, asking their friends, asking their family, asking social media, going on Reddit, asking people. The
Yeah.
reality is it's your life. You've gotta make you've gotta know your values, know what's important to you, and use that as your guiding post, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the guide to
Mhm.
your questions.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but I know that burning yourself out is not something that, and trust me, I was at a point where I was pretty much at that same point too of burnout,
Yeah.
really burning the candle at both ends of the stick and
Mhm.
creating a business and having kids and family all at the same
Yeah.
time. And it was really, really, really hard. I will say, looking back on it, I would do things differently, but I
Mhm.
also am glad that I had my kids young because I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying them now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and it's interesting, this idea of knowing what you want, like, the way I talk about it with my clients is, what are your core values, right? Same concept. How what and so many of us never stop to answer that.
Mm-mm.
Never stop to think about, what do we want to be proud of when we end work, when we end life, when we, whatever. What are those core 1 or 2 or 3 values that we cherish the most? When we can take a little bit of time and work through those questions, this concept of boundaries, energy maintaining, and overwhelm all gets put into perspective,
Mhm.
because we know, okay, well, if my guiding principle is authenticity,
Mhm.
if my guiding principle is family above all else, well, then I'm going to know how to answer if my boss calls and says, "Can you work this weekend? I really, really need somebody." It's your work family, and that's important, right? Well, what's my guiding principle? My guiding principle is authenticity and family, if those,
Mhm.
whatever. And so I need to be authentic with my boss, and I want to spend time with my husband and my
Mhm.
parents and my kids. Okay. Hey, you know what? I understand that you're hurting, boss, manager, but my priority is my family that's here at home. So I
Yep.
can't come in this weekend. So sorry. Good luck. Right? It's very easy, if you know your reason, you know what you want your eulogy to say, right? If you know your guiding values, it maybe not easy, but it's very simple, right? Those decisions of, where am I going to spend my energy? Where am I going to spend my time? Right? Those finite things in life, like our time, it becomes a lot clearer where we need to pull back and adjust, if we can get clear on what our values are, what our priorities are. So, and overwhelm becomes a lot easier to manage.
And I think even though this kind of correlates with the eulogy, the thing is
Mhm.
your family are the ones that are gonna show up at your funeral, not your work family.
Yes.
That truly, I mean, there might be, a couple, but truly,
Well,
one of the
yeah.
things that I noticed moving out of my career is, like, those
Mhm.
people are like, very few
Yeah.
of them are still in my life, right? And
Yeah.
that's heartbreaking, it's not expected. You're like, "Oh, it's gonna be different from me." You hear that over and over again. And I have several clients too that have transitioned into different careers and different jobs, and they feel like their identity has completely crumbled because they've
Yeah.
left an industry and they're trying to transition into a new industry, and they thought for sure that these people are gonna be their friends or their, work family was gonna, rock solid, but when you leave, like, a lot of those people vanish.
Yeah.
So that is another element too,
Yeah.
and you're right, when you really have that solid grounding and you know what's important, your family, your blood family, or your
Mhm.
chosen family too,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
those people are incredibly important in your life and those are your values, you really just it makes it easy to right, make those decisions, those hard decisions. You know what? I'm going to spend time and make memories and laugh with my family at home because these are
Mhm.
the people that I love and care and cherish about.
Yeah.
They cherish me and I cherish them. And one of the things too that I wanted to bring up was me again working in the previous career that I was.
Mhm.
My girls heard me say so much, "I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm
Mhm.
busy." And one of the things I've noticed is my kids are both adults now, and my youngest, she texts me that once in a while. "I'm busy, mom. Sorry, I was
Mm.
gonna call you this weekend." She didn't call me on Mama's Day. She did
Mm.
text me, and she sent me something really sweet and very, very,
Yeah.
thoughtful because that's the way she is, but she
Yeah.
didn't call me.
Yeah.
She texted me on Monday. She's like, "Sorry, mom, I didn't call you. It's just really busy. Been
I'm
really
busy.
busy." And it's
Mhm.
I think it's almost kinda one of those things, it's like she's getting even. It's like
Yeah.
but it also is what did I model? What is the behavior
I
that I modeled?
Yeah, it's it's one of those things where that's what she saw growing
Yeah.
up. So it's in the back of her mind. This is what a successful woman does. She just is
Mhm.
busy all the time. She doesn't have all the time for her mom or for her kids or for her, because that's what was modeled for her.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is you're now modeling an intentional life for her,
Yes.
and she's seeing that.
Yeah.
And she will be able to live a more intentional life for that. But it comes back to how do I want to live right now?
Hmm.
Right? Who do I want to choose to be around? How do I want to talk to the people that I care about? Right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's the clearer we can get on our internal world and our internal way of talking to ourselves, the boundaries that we want to protect our energy and our self, like it shows up in the world when we do
Mhm.
that work. Um,
One of the things that I do, if my clients come to a session without a specific topic
mhm,
or issue or barrier or habit that they want to work on, and they're
mhm,
just kind of like drawing a blank, is it's like sort of like the wheel of life. I don't know if you're familiar with
mhm,
it.
mhm,
It's similar but not. It's really, I, at some point, usually about session 3, we establish certain roles that they play on a weekly basis, and,
mhm.
but I use what they give me, but I also mold it to certain roles that I know that they hold on a weekly basis that are important to
Yes.
them.
Uh-huh.
And, I'll ask them, "How satisfied are you on a scale of 1 to 10 in each of these categories?" And it's always
Yeah.
become really clear that there's one of those roles that's, a little
Mhm,
weak. And so I'll just
mhm.
dive right on in, like, what's getting in the way,
Yeah.
what's more important, what distracted you this last week, and I do it
Mhm,
on a kind of like a month or a week, or it kind of varies, just kind of
mhm,
depending on the
mhm.
client that and the
Yeah.
relationship I have with them and rapport. But it is
Mhm.
really fun to they go, "Oh, yeah, that's true," because it's not top of mind. It just kinda keeps getting
Yeah.
put on the back burner, weight loss or
Mhm,
healthy weight or health,
mhm,
some sort
mhm,
of health, mental, physical health. It usually is one of
mhm.
them, or finances.
Yep.
These things are like, "Oh, yeah, I've been meaning to do something about that," and so we'll just dive in and just do some, laser coaching on certain areas that
Mhm,
they feel
mhm.
is really valid, at that
Yeah,
time. It feels important, so that's a lot of
yeah,
fun, but really, it
yeah,
helps with that balance, and balance, I
yeah.
think, is really important to, overcome burnout, prevent burnout, I guess, if you will, is just
Yes.
really seeing where are you recharging. You mentioned that today, which I
Mhm,
love that, is
mhm.
how are you recovering, rebooting? How are you,
Yep.
getting grounded, reconnecting with your senses, right? I'm a big advocate for finding ways to reconnect with your senses. My favorite perfume is right here on my desk.
Mhm.
I love
Yes.
sense of smell, sense of sight. I
Mhm.
have now, since we moved into our house that we built, I have this huge window in front of me. I have
Ah.
deer, turkeys, trees, all kinds of nature
Mhm,
to watch all day long.
mhm.
So sense of sight, I'm really, really big into that. Everybody's different, and that's what I play with
Yeah,
my clients. What sense is
yeah.
really something that you gravitate towards?
Mhm,
Music, for a lot of
mhm.
my clients, whether it be vocal, singing, instruments, whatever. I've had several clients buy instruments after working
Mm.
with me, not because
Love that.
like, all of a sudden I wanna play an instrument, but it's something
Mm.
that was long lost, right? Maybe when they were a
Yes.
teenager or middle school or whatever,
Mhm.
they used to play an instrument, and I cannot tell you how many of my clients are back playing
Mhm.
instruments again,
Yep.
because it
Yep.
is it helps regulate your nervous
Yeah.
system, it just calms
Yeah.
you down because it's sense of touch and hearing. It just
Mhm.
activates so many
Yeah.
senses. What are some senses that
Yeah.
regulate the things that you can think of?
That's a beautiful way to think about it. So what happens with humans, but when we get into burnout, it's because we are unregulated, right? We're dysregulated. Our stress levels have come to a point where we can no longer bring them down on a regular basis, right? Because stress is a good thing, right? It, maybe that's not stress is a good thing.
Yeah, we need it.
We need it because it gives us that adrenaline boost to get through a difficult situation,
Yeah.
right? That's why it's there. It's good. But what happens is rather than being a peak of adrenaline and stress, and then we return to a calm baseline, we regulate,
Mhm.
right? In our world, we spike, 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 and we stay up here and we never regulate. So the way to do that, of course, is to get in touch with your body.
Yeah.
Let your body sink your mind into your body and just allow it to slow down. Allow yourself to feel grounded, right? And to slow that adrenaline autonomic
Cortisol.
response, right?
Yeah.
And the senses are the perfect way to do that, right? Breathing deeply, slow, long exhales. I actually also have, so I have in my office, I have a big window and I can see all the way to the Columbia from where I am. So I can see the river, Columbia River. I've got an orchard. Well, I've actually got two. I'm in a corner. So I can see the orchard and all the trees. And off this window, I can see the Columbia River. And
Mm.
like, so even if I'm not I love stepping outside and getting actually into the fresh air and feeling the wind because we get a lot of wind around here. Feeling the wind and the sun, right? But even just looking out and knowing what that sounds like, hearing the birds. Our neighbors have a donkey. And so every once in a while, we'll hear this really loud donkey. And it's just hilarious. It makes me laugh
Yeah.
every time. So it's for me, it's that being in nature and being like,
Mm.
I'm just a little part of this. I'm okay. I'm gonna, I can figure out anything, right? The mighty Columbia is rushing by. I can figure out anything, right? So for me, that sense of that having nature around me is really important to me. I love having, so when I'm coaching, I always light a candle because that
Oh.
aroma of my candle is just, it's um, orange and tangerine and like just very,
Mm.
it puts me in that mindset of like,
Mhm.
I'm here to help. I'm, I have this window, I have this smell, like, so, and it helps me stay grounded
Mhm.
and kind of decompressed, right? And I think the more we can find what works for us, like you were saying, your clients are finding what works for them,
Mhm.
the more you can find that for yourself, your values, the things that help you de-stress, like just that's where you can find that balance. I think of it's funny because like I think often we think of balance as the end goal.
Yeah.
Like if I can just get my life balanced, right? But I really think balance is a journey because in this
Yes.
moment right now, maybe I'm building my business. That's super important. I'm going to spend a lot of time there. My running, so I'm a runner. I've done 3 half marathons. I've done a lot of 5Ks and 10Ks. My training runs are not the priority. I'm still doing them, but I'm not focusing my attention on them. I'm
Mm.
not being intentional about certain things and I'm being more intentional about other things. And I think that's
Yeah.
the adult experience is deciding where you want to spend your time and attention. If you've got little kids, maybe your time and attention is more on the kids and less on your cousins or your chosen family or whatever, right? But we get to choose where
Mm.
we're putting that time and attention. And I think that the more we do it intentionally rather than just subconscious, I guess I'm going to take care of the kids. I don't know. Is that a problem? I don't know. Is it good? I don't know. The more we decide intentionally, that's where that balance is.
Mm. I love that. I want to just do a quick summary, what you heard, what you
Yeah.
learned, what your takeaway is. I'm gonna summarize mine as really spinning off of what you just shared, the balance. And you're right, it isn't a finish line. There's no,
Mhm.
hey, I'm here, I'm done. It's really, I think it's like a muscle. It's something you have
Mhm.
to be intentional with every single day and planning. I'm about planning 1, 2, 3 days ahead and sometimes a week
Yes.
ahead. That's about
Mhm.
it. Yeah, unless it's
Mhm.
a big event.
Yeah.
But really balance to me is like you said, it's there's seasons, right? There's gonna be like the wheel of life. I love that for the fact that
Yep.
it kind of shifts, it changes, it
Yes.
kind of
Mhm.
some sides get really heavy and at other times it gets a little weaker and it's just
Mhm.
about really because we can't do it all, right? It's
No.
really and I think that was the other thing too is and we kind of touched on it and weaved around it, but with overwhelm, I notice with a lot of my clients is wanting to add more to their plate without taking something off. And that's really, you end up with a plate on Thanksgiving that's overflowing, and the
Yep.
gravy's rolling off and
Yep.
the
Yep.
stuffing is falling on the floor. So it's really about
Mhm.
making sure if you're going to add something to your plate, something's got to come off. We've got to make
Yeah.
room for this new thing,
Yep.
whatever that is. But I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed speaking
Yeah.
with you today about overwhelm,
Yeah.
and in a fun, playful way. I deeply
Yeah.
enjoy having a conversation with you. But what's your
Yeah.
takeaway?
Same, same. Thank you for having me. It's been fantastic. I love, as you know, I love talking about all things stress and overwhelm and balance and intentionality. And I think what you said, like it all comes back to what do you want? I mean, as morbid as it sounds, it's like, what do you want on your tombstone? What do you want on your in your eulogy? What are the important things? And I
Mm,
love that we talked about that. As like, because when we get clear on those things, you know what to take off the plate, right?
yeah.
You know where to find that balance. So, yeah, thank you for having me to talk about all the things.
Well, it was a privilege and an honor to share this space with you, and hopefully we'll be doing this more. So we'll
Yeah,
see you again.
yeah. Thanks.